Hey everybody, today is April the 8th, and we have kind of a historic event happening in the Disney Lorcana TCG, as probably spoiled in the title and or thumbnail of this video. We have our first couple of bans that will take effect as of April 8th for official Disney Lorcana events, which I think right now is only going to be Worlds upcoming, but obviously tournaments could always implement their own custom ban list, but we do have the Hiram Flaversham Toymaker ban finally happening, as well as Fortisphere. So they opted not to ban Popsicle, they opted not to errata these cards like what they did with Bucky, which effectively was just a ban, right? Bucky is completely phased out of competitive play now and it will likely never come back. But this is pretty significant for a number of reasons. I know there were a lot of players, I don't want to say whining, but like really harping on the fact that, Hiram, Popsicle, etc., not good. We don't want to play with that. And there's a number of reasons and arguments you can make for and against banning these cards. The biggest thing against banning these cards, I think, is obviously a lot of players would have invested quite heavily in building these kind of decks, right? Myself included. But if you spent all the money, 400, 500, especially if you foiled them out, on these kind of decks, what does it mean? I mean, it was kind of the same with the Bucky errata, right? Like if you invested, in Beast Tragic Heroes, etc., all those cards kind of, I don't want to say completely tanked, but they did go down quite a bit. What does the Hiram Flaversham ban actually mean for Sapphire Ruby and Sapphire Steel? Well, immediately, they were definitely tier one, the best decks of the format. They've instantly just been like cut down to probably tier three in the immediate term. No Hiram means basically the deck has no draw engine, at least for Sapphire Ruby. Sapphire Steel, I guess you could say effectively is the same thing. You do have Beast Tragic Hero, Maurice's Workshop. That's a little bit easier to play in those kind of decks. But I don't think you can afford to play those kind of draw engines. Obviously not Beast Tragic Hero, but even Maurice's Workshop in a Sapphire Ruby. It's just too clunky. So I do think that this effectively kills these Sapphire engine decks. It doesn't kill Sapphire as a color, right? Because, Emerald Sapphire, Amethyst, Sapphire, etc., that don't rely on Hiram engines can still function. And to be fair, there is a variation, there is a world to say that, this kind of deck can still function. The issue that you have with banning Hiram and Fortisphere is it introduces a vacuum, right? What's going to fight for tier one? And in my opinion, the discard decks are some of the most oppressive decks that you can face. These were already performing decently well, kind of as an anti-meta option as well, though, to be fair. Like, you played these decks where you played, like, Amethyst Emerald discard, Amber Emerald discard in order to counter some of the Sapphire strategy. So will these still be top tier if you see the reemergence of something like Steel Song? What's interesting to me is, they never introduced any bans for Ruby Amethyst when it was clearly tier 0, and Sapphire decks are not tier 0. They don't introduce any bans for very oppressive lines of play like what Steel Song can do, but they introduce a ban to this. I mean, the Bucky ban I think was way more understandable because this card is just not fun to play against. And at least with Amber Steel Song, the deck still had kind of some inherent weaknesses to itself. I mean, to be fair, Discard does as well. But it's just a very strange approach, I think, by Ravensburger to say we're gonna ban these cards. I mean, I understand because like design space wise, similar to what Bucky did, you can't really design future items, right? With Hiram floating around. Because every item that you design, when you look at these decks, whether it be um, the Sapphire Steel or the Sapphire Ruby, it's like all these items still do something good on their own, and now you have to also design them in the context of, well, we can't make the items that good or have their abilities be that good because there's always the conversion of draw two with the Hiram, right? And we know that these Sapphire mirrors, which is what we're seeing a lot of right now, which you can argue is not very nice to see because it's really a race to how can I find my Hiram? How fast can I find my Hiram? Um, it's crazy though. It's crazy to see, like, if you did invest like me in the Scrooge and the Tamatoa, these cards are going to go down in price. Um, these ink pairings aren't necessarily completely dead, and the Tamatoa and stuff is still very strong. But I mean, every Sapphire deck more or less was playing Hiram, right? Unless you were playing a rogue strategy, more or less. Like I said, like Blurple was considered rogue, etc. But it's going to be interesting to see how the meta shapes up. I mean, we can't really analyze it right now in this reaction video to the ban list, but like, even a deck like this, which kind of was coming up in the forefront of the meta the Emerald Amethyst discard oriented deck with like the Queen and stuff to put back opposing items so that they cannot get it back. The opponent can't get it back with the Tamatoa. These decks were kind of created, and item hate decks were kind of created against the Sapphire meta. So for the Worlds format, I think we will see something quite significant happen. It'll be interesting. But, like I said, they didn't ban anything like goats, like Whole New World, Ariel, Diablo is still around. Like this card, in my opinion, is going to shoot up in price like wild. I'm glad I got my foil copies. Might even splurge on a enchanted. I don't know, but who knows? Because I mean, are they going to ban Diablo next? Are they going to errata Diablo next? What does that mean for again the people who have invested in these cards? Are they just going to continue to do this? Because you have this problem in other card games, right? Like you buy and you build your decks, you play your decks in anticipation of these cards are going to be rotated out at some point. We're going to see ban lists. It's interesting to see that Ravensburger, at least in the immediate term, has opted for bans and not format rotation. We may get format rotation later on, but even in format rotating formats, or not format, set rotating formats, sorry, is what I meant to say. I think you still have ban lists within those, right? So, it's not necessarily you ban these cards and then you don't have set rotation at all. It's not like Yu-Gi-Oh! But yeah, this is kind of interesting. Why Fortisphere? You don't want to ban Popsicle, I don't think, or errata these cards either, like I said. Like the Hiram ban in and of itself effectively kills a lot of these strategies. The Fortisphere ban with the Hiram, I don't know if that was necessary. I think they did this because I guess Sapphire Steel is the more resilient deck against the ban of Hiram because they can just go ham with the workshop, especially with Tamatoa, Scrooge, the Queen, etc., being able to find workshop and put it into play. Do we go back to those cards? Like, again, my brain is just going constantly. Like, if I look at Sapphire, Ruby, does this deck, like, it's crazy. Like, how can you go more heavy on items if you remove Hiram, right? All the Sapphire Ruby variants just seem to get considerably worse. But do you play stuff like Queen, going back to, I think it was set 4, set 5 DLC, where this Queen ended up taking a DLC in Europe, with like the workshops. Like it's going to be, what? How can I not? Oh, okay. How can I? There we go. What is going to happen in this metagame? It's going to be kind of crazy to see. The immediate reaction is probably a lot of anger from people, because I mean a lot of people invested in these decks knowing that they would be the best decks of the format. What I will say is you can expect Ravensburger to print something. Something to replace Hiram with. They had to ban this card, which I don't know why I'm looking for it in my deck list, because I just removed it. But they have to replace this card with something. Probably something more balanced, right? I mean, you technically have some stuff in these pairings, but it's not like, it's nowhere near. Like, you're not playing Maurice, right? Banish one, draw a card. You've got Judy Hopps, which, again, these are just on play. I think we will get something, because I don't think they're going to allow people to be, considerably upset on the fact that they invested in these decks and now they've just been absolutely destroyed, especially when other broken cards, air quotes, and other inks did not get hit, like Goats, like Diablo, etc. In my opinion, Diablo is more of a problem than any other card, but that's just my opinion. I equate it to basically what Maxi is in Yu-Gi-Oh! And Maxi is, if you have Maxi and it resolves, your chances to win the game just, shot up by at least 70%. But, like the Ink Geyser deck that we just reviewed, it doesn't play Hiram, but it was more designed to counter the Hiram decks, right? So, again, it's going to be interesting to see how things develop. I think Emerald decks will once again come back up to the top of the format. And for me personally, I don't like Emerald decks. I think that they are overtuned for their discard, and it's just not fun to play against Emerald metas, in my opinion, or just like aggro metas. Um, I like control metas. That's just me. I think that, a meta like this, it's easy to tech against. Therefore, that's why these decks did not like. I mean, yes, they were still winning events, but they weren't tier zero. When you had a limited card pool when Ruby Amethyst was tier zero, that was a different story. But the versatility that the Emerald packages give you, I think, it's just not. I'm just not looking forward to what ends up taking the place of the Sapphire decks. Sapphire kept a lot of other broken strategies in check, right? Like I've talked about Steel Song, I think in this video right earlier, I've talked about the Emerald discard decks. Those decks now had a major competitor just wiped off the face of the competitive landscape. I don't like the way that Steel Song and stuff plays. Because you feel a lot more helpless against that deck, in my opinion, than you do against a deck like this. But I guess they both have their problems, right? Because, I mean, once you see a Ruby Sapphire player with, like, 6 cards in their hand, you're just like, yeah, I can't win that game. Right? They're just going to have removal for everything I have. I mean, I shouldn't say that, because I definitely have won games against Ruby Sapphire players who have drawn that many cards, right? With, like, Amethyst decks, right? Like, you Sisu wipe me, I take care of your Sisu, I still have a location on board or something, right? And I'm still pushing for game. You can have all the cards and all the removal. And this is what you saw in the national championships, right? So, like, I can understand the need to ban this at some point. I just think they're reacting too much. I mean, I guess there is tournament data and Sapphire is winning pretty much every tournament, but, like, I don't know. I just feel like we could have waited a little bit more. Ruby Amethyst was winning every tournament a little while ago, right? I don't know. I think people just complained enough, and Ravensburger was like, "Well, we just have to cater to this." Um, I don't know if I agree with it in the end, but it'll be interesting to see how the meta develops. Let's wrap it up there, guys. If you're interested in future videos, because there's a lot now to consider with the meta game, right? We're going to have to do a lot of analysis to see what's going to develop from here. But I think I don't know, man. I just think like Amethyst and Emerald decks. I mean, Amethyst formats, in my opinion, are a little bit more fun. But Emerald's, man, like I just don't like the way Emerald functions, because Emerald, in order to Emerald's identity is discard, and that's just not fun, right? But yeah, let's wait and see. Anyways, let's wrap it up there, guys. Let me know what you think about the Hiram ban. Thank you again for watching. If you made it this far, Quantum is out.